These are the streets of Phnom Penh in Cambodia. You can see the red lights of the brothels. And inside these brothels, very often, are children. We tend to think of the sex industry in Southeast Asia only in terms of its consumers: predatory foreign men, sex tourists, faded pop stars. But the women and girls who are forced to serve this clientele are unknown to us, a shamed and nameless mass. In Southeast Asia alone, UNICEF says that 1 million children are involved in the commercial sex trade. This is Kampong Cham province, 3 hours drive from Phnom Penh. Here, in isolation and relative privacy, there is a shelter dedicated to the care and rehabilitation of children who have been liberated from the sex industry. Darlene is 17 years old. She's been living at the center for 4 years and was sold to a brothel when she was just 12. It's only now, after substantial amounts of therapy, that she feels able to tell publicly her story.
Before I went to the brothel, I was living at home with my family. My mother had died, and my father had become very angry. He used to beat me. Eventually, I couldn't take any more, so I left and went to live with my grandfather. But then one day, a woman came to me and persuaded me to go and work in a clothing factory. I trusted her and went with her to Kampong Cham province. But when we got there, she sold me to a brothel. The brothel owner then took me to Phnom Penh, where I was sold again. I had no idea it was another brothel until I overheard 2 pimps bargaining. One of them mentioned a price for me. It was $150. My heart sank. I began to wonder where the hell I'd ended up.
This is the brothel where Darlene lived and worked in Phnom Penh. It was filmed on the day of her rescue by an aid agency.
I was 12 when I was first taken to the brothel. Right from the start, on my arrival, I felt uneasy. The place gave me the creeps. At first, I didn't really have anything much to do, just help out with the cooking for the brothel owners. But then one evening, a group of men came into my room. I asked them what they wanted, and they told me to go out and receive a client. I said, "What am I supposed to do?" So they told me, "Don't worry, you'll know what to do. And if you don't know, you'll soon learn." I said, I was sorry, but I came here to work in a clothing factory, not to do this kind of work. Then they started to drag me out of the room. I began shouting and calling for help. They said, "There's no point in screaming. No one's going to help you." They put a gun to my head. I begged them not to kill me. And then another group of men came in. They had electric cables with them. I started to cry and scream, but nobody came. I remember them saying, "Nobody will dare help you now." I realized it was hopeless. I swore at them and told them they'd all die in hell. But they just told me to shut up and keep quiet, or I'd get the same treatment over again. I just remember crying. Then they left me in my room and starved me until I agreed to go with clients. So during the days, I was kept locked in a cage beneath the brothel. They only brought me food if I went with a client, and I was only allowed out when a client came.
The aid agency responsible for Darlene's release and subsequent rehabilitation is run by Somali Mam, a former child sex worker herself. She regularly